I still remember the day my son told me not to enter his room. It wasn't just the words, it was the tone. The coldness in his voice that sliced through my heart like a knife. "Mom, don't come in here again," he said, slamming the door right in front of me. For a second I just stood there, my hand frozen on the doorknob, staring at that wooden door that used to open to my little boy's laughter. It's strange, isn't it? The same hands that built a home can one day tremble outside a door that's no longer theirs. That house. It wasn't just bricks and wood to me. It was the dream my late husband and I built together. I worked double shifts at the diner, saved every dollar, and watched that house grow piece by piece. The foundation, I poured the cement with my own hands. The paint, I chose every color with care, every corner with love. And that room he now calls his, I remember painting it blue because when he was little, he said it made him feel like he was sleeping inside the sky. Now, years later, that same boy had grown into a man who looked right through me. He had a wife now, Emily. Pretty, confident, the kind who always had something to say about how things should be done. She didn't like my old furniture or the smell of my cooking. She said things like, "Oh, Mrs. Miller, maybe it's time you moved somewhere quieter. You know, so we can have more space." And my son, my sweet little boy Daniel, just nodded. Every time. That night, after he shut his door, I sat on the couch, holding my old photo album. Every page told a story. His first day at school, his missing front tooth, the birthday cake I baked when I barely had enough sugar. I smiled, then I cried. Because love is like that. It hurts the most when you've given it everything. The next morning I woke up early. Made coffee like always. The house felt colder. I walked down the hallway and paused outside his door again. I could hear them talking. Whispers, laughter, something about privacy and boundaries. I wasn't angry. Just empty. I turned away and went to the porch. The sun was rising, painting the sky orange and gold. I whispered to myself, "You built this home, Mary. You did." And for a moment I felt strong again. But strength doesn't stop tears. That evening, when Emily left for work and Daniel was still upstairs, I walked quietly toward his room. I just wanted to check if he was okay. Mother's instinct, you know? But as I placed my hand on the doorknob, I froze. His words echoed again. "Don't enter my room." Backed away. I didn't want another fight. But then I heard a sound, a small crash from inside. My heart jumped. I knocked. "Daniel, are you okay?" No answer. I pushed the door open slightly, and there it was. A box had fallen from the shelf, and old things were scattered on the floor. My things. My letters, my photographs, even my husband's old watch. Daniel turned sharply, glaring at me. "I told you not to come in here," he shouted. "Daniel, I was just worried. Just go, Mom. Please." His voice broke. But not from sadness. From frustration. Like I was a stranger trespassing in my own home. I looked at him for a long moment. He was standing right where his crib used to be. My heart screamed, but my lips stayed quiet. I turned around, walked out, and closed the door behind me. Softly this time. That night I couldn't sleep. My heart felt heavy with a kind of pain words can't explain. Have you ever loved someone so deeply that even their cruelty feels like your fault? Like maybe you weren't enough. Not patient enough, not quiet enough, not modern enough. Before I continue, tell me honestly, if someone you love deeply started pushing you away, would you still stay silent, or would you walk out with your dignity? I really want to know. Tell me in the comments below, because sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing. The next morning I packed a small bag. Just a few clothes, my Bible, and the photo of Daniel holding his first fishing rod. I left a note on the kitchen table. "I'll give you the space you want, my dear. Love, Mom." And then I walked out of that house. I didn't look back. Not because I didn't want to, but because if I did, I might never have left. I could feel the memories clinging to my heart, whispering, "Stay." But I couldn't. Not this time. I went to my sister's place across town. She welcomed me with open arms, but she didn't ask questions. She didn't have to. She looked into my eyes and saw everything. Days turned into weeks. I didn't hear from Daniel. Not a call, not a message. The silence was louder than any words could be. Every night I prayed he was eating well, sleeping well. That maybe he still thought of me sometimes. But deep down I knew something was about to change. You can always feel it before the storm arrives. That strange stillness, that quiet before everything falls apart. And I was right. Because one evening my sister came rushing into the living room, holding her phone. "Mary," she said softly. "It's Daniel. He called." My heart stopped for a moment. I stood there, trembling, trying to read her expression. "What did he say?" I whispered. She hesitated. "He needs your help." That's when I knew something had gone terribly wrong. When my sister handed me the phone, my fingers trembled. I could hear Daniel's voice on the other end. Shaky, broken, nothing like the son who once shut a door in my face. "Mom," he said softly, and for a moment I couldn't answer. That one word, Mom, carried all the pain, all the years, all the love that had been buried under silence. "Daniel, what's wrong?" finally asked. There was a pause. Then he said, I need you to come home." My heart skipped a beat. Home. The word felt strange now. I didn't know if it was still mine to return to. "Is everything okay?" I whispered. He took a shaky breath. "Please just come, Mom. I can't explain right now." I hung up slowly, staring at the floor. My sister placed her hand over mine. "You should go," she said softly. So I did. The drive back felt endless. Every turn of the wheel brought back memories. The sound of his laughter, the smell of his favorite pancakes, the nights I stayed awake sewing his school clothes. I had built that house to keep us together. But somehow it had pushed us apart. When I finally reached, the porch light was on. The same porch I used to decorate with fairy lights every Christmas. My hands shook as I turned the doorknob, the same one that had once been closed to me. Inside, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Then I saw Daniel, sitting on the edge of the couch, his head buried in his hands. "Daniel," I said softly. He looked up. His eyes were red, swollen, the kind you get after nights of regret. "Mom," he said again, standing up, "I'm sorry." Those words, they hit harder than any insult. "What happened?" I asked, my voice trembling. "It's Emily," he said, his voice cracking. "She left." Froze. "Left? What do you mean?" He ran his fingers through his hair, pacing the room. "She took her things and left this morning. Said she couldn't live here anymore." I was too controlling. Too angry. He looked at me then, eyes full of guilt. "She was right, Mom. I've become someone I don't even recognize." I walked closer, resting my hand on his shoulder. "Oh, my boy." Tears filled his eyes. "I yelled at you, I pushed you away, and for what? This house," he gestured around. "I treated it like a cage. But it's not the house that was the problem. It was me." I wanted to hold him, to tell him everything was okay, but my heart still carried the scars of every door he'd closed. I took a deep breath. "Daniel, when you told me not to enter your room, I didn't just hear words. I heard a wall being built between us." He lowered his head. "I know. I hate myself for it." We sat in silence for a long time. The clock ticked on the wall, the same clock I'd hung when he was 10. Time hadn't changed it. Maybe it hadn't changed me either. Then Daniel whispered something that sent chills down my spine. "Mom, I think she's planning to sell the house." I blinked. "Sell the house? But how?" He nodded slowly. "Before she left, she said something like, 'Let's see how much your mother's memories are worth on the market.' She took the documents, Mom. The ownership papers. Everything." My heart sank. I felt dizzy, gripping the edge of the chair. "Daniel, that house isn't hers to sell." He looked at me, confused. "What do you mean?" I stared at him, tears forming again. "Because, Daniel, that house is still in my name." He froze. "What?" I nodded, voice trembling. "Your father and I built this house together. After he passed, I kept it under my name. I just never told you because I didn't want you to feel like it wasn't yours. I wanted you to feel like it was your home." He looked completely stunned. "You mean, all this time?" "Yes." I smiled faintly through my tears. "You told me not to enter my own room, Daniel." The words hung heavy in the air. He covered his face, shaking his head. "God, what have I done?" I could see the realization sinking in. The weight of every harsh word, every ignored moment, every time he treated me like a guest in my own home. "I'll fix it," he said suddenly. "I'll find the papers, I'll bring them back. I promise, Mom." I touched his cheek softly. "You don't need to fix the papers, my son. You just need to fix your heart." He broke down completely then, sobbing into my hands like he was that little boy again who scraped his knee and ran to me for comfort. I held him close, whispering, "You're still my child, Daniel. You always will be." That night I stayed over. For the first time in months, the house didn't feel so cold. I made soup and we sat together in silence, but it wasn't the painful kind anymore. It was healing. Before we went to sleep, he said quietly, "Mom, tomorrow, will you help me look through the attic? Maybe she hid the documents there." He nodded. "Of course, dear. We'll find them." But that night, as I lay in my old bed, something didn't sit right with me. Emily was clever, too clever. If she took the papers, she must have had a plan. And I was right. Because the next morning when Daniel went to get the mail, he found an envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. A house transfer request, signed with my name. But it wasn't my handwriting. When Daniel brought the letter to me, his hands were shaking. "Mom, look at this," he whispered. I took the paper gently, my eyes scanning each line. It was a property transfer form, the kind used when selling or gifting a house. At the bottom, in neat cursive letters, was my name, my signature. Except, it wasn't mine. I stared at it for a long moment, feeling my chest tighten. "This isn't my handwriting," I said softly. Daniel looked terrified. "Emily must have forged it. She's trying to sell the house using your name." My voice trembled. "But how could she even know where to find the documents?" He swallowed hard. "Because I told her. I told her they were in your old chest in the attic." I turned slowly toward him. He looked like a boy again, scared, guilty, lost. "Oh, Daniel." Tears filled his eyes. "I didn't think she'd actually do something like this. I just wanted to be honest with her. I thought we were building a life together, Mom." I reached out, touching his cheek gently. "Love makes fools of all of us, my dear. But what she's done isn't just betrayal. It's theft of something sacred, our memories, our home." He nodded, voice breaking. "We have to stop her." So that morning we went to the lawyer's office. Mr. Porter, the same man who'd handled my husband's estate years ago, looked up when I entered. "Mary," he said with surprise, "it's been a long time." I smiled faintly. "Yes, too long." We handed him the letter. He adjusted his glasses and read it carefully, frowning. "This signature is clearly forged. Whoever did this knew enough to copy your writing, but they missed small details, like the curve in your M." Daniel clenched his fists. "Can we prove it?" Mr. Porter nodded. "Oh yes, we'll need to file a fraud report immediately. But you'll need to act fast before she finalizes anything." Daniel sighed in relief, but I could see the pain behind his eyes. It wasn't just about the house, it was about trust. He'd built his world around a woman who saw our home as property instead of a heartbeat. After we left the office, Daniel drove silently. The road stretched endlessly ahead, the rain beginning to fall in soft drops against the windshield. I stared out the window, watching them slide down like tiny tears. "Mom," he said quietly after a while, "how did you stay strong all those years? After Dad died, after raising me alone, after everything." I smiled sadly. "Because I had no choice. When life takes everything from you, it teaches you to build again, with your bare hands if you must." "And Daniel?" I looked at him. That house was built with pain, love, and prayer. No one can steal that from us. He nodded, gripping the wheel tighter. I'll make it right. I'll bring everything back. But life has a cruel sense of timing. That evening when we got home, the front door was wide open. My heart dropped. We rushed inside. Drawers pulled out, papers scattered, boxes thrown across the floor. She came back, Daniel said through gritted teeth. I looked around, my old hands trembling as I lifted one of the drawers. She was looking for something. And then I saw it. A photo frame lying broken on the floor. It was a picture of Daniel as a little boy, sitting on his father's shoulders. I bent down and picked it up carefully, brushing the glass shards away. She can take papers, Daniel, I whispered. But not memories. We called the police. They took fingerprints, asked questions, promised to find her. But deep down, I knew Emily was too smart to get caught easily. She had planned this. That night, Daniel sat on the couch, head in his hands. Mom, if we lose the house. I sat beside him. We won't. He looked at me. You sound so sure. I smiled softly. Because I built this home. Every nail, every board. I placed it with love. And love leaves marks deeper than any pen stroke. You can forge a name, Daniel, but not a soul. He nodded, tears forming again. I don't deserve you, Mom. None of us deserve the people who love us unconditionally, I said, patting his hand. We just try to become better because of them. The next morning I woke before sunrise. The sky was gray, heavy with clouds. Something told me to check the mailbox. Inside was another envelope. No name, no return address. Just one line written in neat handwriting. You should have stayed out of that room. My heart raced. I rushed back inside and showed Daniel. His face went pale. It's her. She's watching us. I could feel the fear crawling up my spine, but I refused to show it. Let her watch, I said quietly. Maybe she'll finally see what real strength looks like. We went back to Mr. Porter's office that afternoon with the new letter. He looked alarmed. This is harassment, Mary. We'll get a restraining order if needed. But before that, there's something else you should see. He opened his drawer and took out a file. Inside were old documents, property titles, mortgage papers, and one, yellowed with age, caught my eye. My husband's will. I hadn't seen it in years. Mr. Porter cleared his throat. Mary, this may be hard to hear, but your husband left a clause I think you forgot about. It says here, if the property ever faces dispute, ownership transfers to the next of kin who proves loyalty and care to the owner. I blinked. Loyalty and care. He nodded. It's symbolic, of course, but legally, it means whoever demonstrates true responsibility toward you, not just blood relation, could be declared rightful owner. I looked at Daniel, who looked confused. So what does that mean? He asked. Mr. Porter smiled faintly. It means your mother can choose who deserves that house, Daniel. And from what I see, she already has. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. He turned toward me slowly, whispering, Mom, I don't deserve it. I touched his hand gently. Then earn it. That night, as we locked the doors and sat by the dim living room light, I knew the story wasn't over. Emily was still out there, still trying to destroy what we'd built. But something had changed inside Daniel. A fire had lit in his eyes again. And deep down, I knew the next sunrise would bring not just another day, but the start of a reckoning. The next morning I woke up before the sun. Something inside me told me that today would change everything. I walked to the porch, holding my cup of coffee, watching the first rays of light crawl across the sky. For the first time in a long time I didn't feel weak. I didn't feel unwanted. Felt ready. Daniel came downstairs a little later, eyes tired but determined. Mom, he said quietly, I've been thinking. I don't just want to stop her. I want to make this right. He nodded. Then let's do it, son. We decided to meet Emily at her office. Daniel still knew where she worked, a real estate firm downtown. I dressed neatly, the way I used to when I'd go to church. I wanted her to see me not as the fragile old woman she thought she could fool, but as the woman who built her entire world from nothing. When we arrived, she looked startled to see us. She was sitting behind her desk, her hair perfect, her smile practiced. "Oh," she said sweetly, "Mary. Daniel. What a surprise." Daniel's voice was firm. "We know what you did, Emily." Her smile faltered. "I don't know what you're talking about." I stepped forward slowly, holding the forged document. "You signed my name. You stole my papers. You tried to sell my house." She shrugged, feigning innocence. "I thought Daniel and I agreed the house would eventually be ours." "Yours," I said softly. "That house was never yours to take." Something in my tone made her shift uncomfortably. She looked at Daniel. "You told me it was his. I didn't do anything wrong." Daniel's eyes burned with anger. "You forged her signature. That's a crime, Emily." For a second her mask slipped. "You can't prove anything." I smiled gently. "Not out of cruelty but strength." "That's where you're wrong, dear." I handed her a small folder. Inside were photos of her at my house the night she broke in, captured by the old security camera I'd installed years ago, one she never noticed near the porch light. Her face went pale. "You wanted my home," I said quietly, stepping closer. "But you forgot something important. I built that house with my own hands. And every brick remembers me." She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Daniel spoke then, his voice breaking. "You used me, Emily. You turned me against my mother, and I let you. But no more. You're not taking another thing from her, or from me." Emily stood up, her face cold. "You think you can threaten me with this?" I looked her straight in the eyes. "No, dear. I don't threaten. I forgive. But the law won't." For a moment there was silence. Then Daniel placed the file on her desk and said, "We're pressing charges." She froze, her confidence melting away. For the first time I saw fear in her eyes, not because of punishment, but because she realized she'd underestimated the wrong woman. We walked out of that office, hand in hand, mother and son. The autumn air outside felt lighter, freer, like the weight of years had finally lifted. When we got back home, Daniel looked at me and said, "Mom, I don't deserve your forgiveness." I smiled softly. "Forgiveness isn't about who deserves it. It's about who needs peace." He nodded, tears glistening. "Then I'll spend the rest of my life earning it." That night we sat together in the living room. The house felt alive again, warm, peaceful. I made him his favorite soup, and for the first time since his childhood, he asked me to tell him a story. So I told him the truth. I told him about the first day his father and I laid the foundation of this home. About how I worked double shifts, came home covered in dust, and still found joy in watching the walls rise higher. About how every nail I hammered carried a prayer for him. When I finished, Daniel took my hands in his and said, "This house isn't just a home, Mom. It's a part of you." I looked at him with tears in my eyes. "And now, my boy, it's a part of you too." Weeks passed. Emily disappeared from our lives. The court took care of the rest. She tried to deny everything, but the evidence spoke louder than her lies. The judge ruled in our favor, confirming the house was rightfully mine. But you know what the sweetest part was? It wasn't winning. It wasn't justice. It was watching Daniel come home every day after work, fixing small things around the house, smiling again, talking again, like the man I once knew. One evening he knocked on my door softly. "Mom," he said, "come upstairs. I want to show you something." I followed him, and when he opened the door my breath caught. It was his room, the one he once told me not to enter. But now it was changed. The walls were painted light blue again, the same color I chose when he was little. The old photo frames were hung neatly, the furniture polished. And on the shelf, there was a small wooden sign that said, "Mom's room, always welcome." Tears rolled down my cheeks. I looked at him, unable to speak. He smiled. "I can't rebuild everything I broke, Mom. But I can start here." I walked in slowly, touching the walls, the bed, the curtains. Every piece of it. My heart felt full again. I turned to him, whispering, "You finally understood, didn't you?" He nodded. "That a home isn't made by owning it. It's made by loving it." I smiled through my tears. "That's right, my dear. And sometimes it takes losing everything to see what truly matters." We hugged for a long time. For the first time, I didn't feel like a visitor in my own home. I felt like a mother again. Before I end my story tonight, let me ask you something from my heart. If someone you love ever hurts you deeply, will you choose revenge or forgiveness? Tell me what you'd do. Because sometimes, forgiveness is the most powerful revenge of all. The next morning, I stood in the garden, watching the sunlight dance over the roof I once built with trembling hands. The flowers swayed gently in the wind, and I whispered, "We did it, John." Because somewhere in that house, in every brick, every corner, I could still feel my late husband's love, my son's laughter, and my own strength. I built that house with my hands, but I rebuilt my family with my heart.